Hello?
Why don't you want to talk to me?
Who is this?
You tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Uh-huh.
I only eat popcorn at the movies.
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
It is the question that launched the horror motion picture franchise, popularized by straining vocal cords, jump scares, and young romance. What's your favorite scary movie? The latest installment in the Scream franchise, Scream 6, was released on March 10th, 2023. The cast included Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, and Courtney Cox. In this new vision, audience members were transported from the not-so-quiet town of Woodsboro to the bright lights and fresh kills of New York City, where big dreams make for even bigger screams.
Guys?
But where did the good, the bad, and the bloody all begin? Join us as we take a look back at the slicing and dicing of one of the ghostliest horror franchises on the market to date. Written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven, the original Scream starred Neve Campbell as final girl Sydney Prescott.
Well, I started out as a dancer, actually. I started when I was 6. And then got into the National Ballet School when I was 9 and really was training to become a professional dancer. And my first job was Phantom of the Opera, which I got when I was 14. And thank you. And that was a really amazing experience. And that an agent saw me in that and asked me if I wanted to act. And I sort of slid into acting from dancing because I'd had a lot of injuries and stuff. So, yeah, started in dance and then moved into theater and then moved into film.
Courtney Cox played news reporter Gail Weathers, and David Arquette played law enforcement officer Dwight Riley, better known as Deputy Dewey. Skeet Ulrich landed the role of Billy Loomis, whose name paid tribute to the fictional character Dr. Loomis of the iconic horror film Halloween by John Carpenter. Ulrich was awarded the part only after actors Ben Affleck and Joaquin Phoenix turned it down. As it happened, the role of Billy Loomis proved integral to the success of the surprise smash hit of the 90s.
Had you ever done anything like this before?
No, not really. No, I mean, the character is he's definitely different. You know, he's definitely, which is why I was attracted to it. I mean, and the thing about it is how it's a real guy. You know, and that's. It's interesting to put all these real people in this situation and see what you get out of it, and I think we got a fantastic movie out of it. You know, a roller coaster ride of a movie.
One particular line delivered by Ulrich almost caused the film to be slapped with an NC-17 rating. According to Wes Craven, it was executive producer Bob Weinstein that convinced the MPAA that Scream was actually a comedy, and not a more traditional horror film. This bending of the truth resulted in the line being kept in the movie.
He's sick fucks. You've seen one too many movies.
Now, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Agree or disagree, the R rating stuck and the project moved forward.
We'll never get away with this.
Oh no. Tell that to Cotton Weary.
Other cast members included Matthew Lillard as Stu Macher, Rose McGowan as Tatum Riley, and Jamie Kennedy as Randy Meeks. Golden Globe-winning actress Drew Barrymore of Firestarter, Donnie Darko, Santa Clarita Diet, E.T., and many others also made an important appearance in the motion picture. Though Barrymore had the opportunity to sink her acting chops into the main role, she opted to play Casey Becker instead, a character who audience members witnessed getting violently gutted during the opening scene of the film. Barrymore selected the smaller role to surprise and shock audience members, but she herself was surprised to learn that the phone she was using during the shoot was connected to an actual landline, and Barrymore accidentally called 911.
Can you see me?
Listen, I am 2 seconds away from calling the police.
Barrymore's input did not end with her role selection. It was the young actress who came up with Casey Becker's signature hairstyle after having been inspired by a character in a well-known 80s crime drama.
Can I ask a really frivolous question?
Please.
How'd you decide that hair? You guys remember
The
that
hair is so
blonde with
good.
the bangs and the bob? How'd you do it? Was that a wig?
It was a wig, and I asked, do you guys obviously know the movie Scarface?
Of course.
So Michelle Pfeiffer's hair in Scarface was the image I took to the wig maker, and I said, I want this, exactly this.
Drew Barrymore was not the only actress considered for the role of Sidney Prescott before it finally went to Neve Campbell. Several other well-known and up-and-coming actresses passed on the opportunity.
Screenwriter Kevin Williamson had Molly Ringwald in mind for the movie's lead role of Sidney Prescott, but the 80s icon declined, feeling that at the age of 27, she could no longer play a high schooler.
I don't think I belong in here.
Drew Barrymore then signed on for the role, and producers greenlit the movie and hired legendary horror director Wes Craven. After more thought, however, Barrymore insisted on playing Casey, who was killed in the opening scene, accurately predicting it would shock the audience.
What did you say?
So the Prescott part was offered to Reese Witherspoon, but she reportedly wrote it off as B-movie horror and not the satirical movie it was meant to be, and passed. As did Claire Danes, hot off My So-Called Life and Romeo and Juliet. Other actresses considered for the lead role include Clarissa Explains It All's Melissa Joan Hart, Clueless's Brittany Murphy, Mr. Holland's Opus's Alicia Witt, Heavenly Creatures' Melanie Linsky, My So-Called Life's A.J. Langer, and then newcomer Chloe Sevigny. The winner, though, was Party of Five's Neve Campbell, who won producers over with her role in The Craft.
Those were accidents.
Accident or not, Scream, which released in December 1996, took a different approach to horror while following teenager Sidney Prescott and her friends as they are terrorized by strange phone calls and a masked killer known as Ghostface. But who was the dark and mysterious voice on the other end of the line? It was neither Stu nor Billy, as shown in the movie. Rather, it was none other than voice actor Roger L. Jackson of the popular children's show The Powerpuff Girls. Though the teen romance in the film may not have been all that it was cracked up to be, the adult romance proved an altogether different matter, with tabloid reporter Gale Weathers and Deputy Dwight Dewey Riley not only finding themselves drawn to each other, but drawn into the bloody mix of whodunit murders, lies, dies, misidentification, and mayhem. The film, which was created on an estimated budget of $14 million, revitalized the slasher genre by carefully infusing wit and self-awareness to draw audience members. Though it opened in the number 4 spot at the time, word of mouth spread, and the 1-hour, 51-minute motion picture went on to gross over $173 million worldwide. It also provided viewers with a horror movification by breaking down the rules of survival, while at the same time violating some of the oldest in film history.
Have an aneurysm, why don't you?
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie. For instance, number 1, you can never have sex. No. Big no-no! Big no!
I'm a dead man.
Even in popcorn, sex equals death, okay? Number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. No, the sin factor. It's a sin. It's an extension of number 1. And number 3, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
Not all was smooth sailing for the project, however. Securing the right location proved harder than expected.
There was a beautiful high school in Santa Rosa, that they seem to be very film friendly.
Santa Rosa High School had actually been used in film before. It's the high school in Francis Ford Coppola's Peggy Sue Got Married.
And that was one of the big selling points about going to Santa Rosa was, here we have this high school and it seems perfect. It seems the best for production.
I wanted very much that very, very American feel to it, so that's how we ended up there.
But the reception the filmmakers received was not as inviting as the location's rolling green hills. Although the high school's administration had initially welcomed the cast and crew, it was the Santa Rosa City School Board that had the final say.
When we had our first presentation, we were told that it was a spoof, a comedy, and what we read was not.
They read the script and were completely affronted by it, just thought it was despicable and should not be allowed in their high school, and pulled the contract.
The change in production location was not the only obstacle faced by the movie's creators. Finding the right costume for the villain also proved difficult. In fact, initially, the signature costume of Ghostface was set to be white. After careful consideration and concern that it might be compared to outfits worn by the Ku Klux Klan, Ghostface's robe was changed to black, and a new horror icon was born. Disgraced film producer Harvey Weinstein of Dimension Films, a subsidiary of Miramax Home Entertainment, also had a hand in some changes, one being the film's name, which went from the working title Scary Movie to Scream, after Weinstein found inspiration in Michael Jackson's song of the same name. Actress Rose McGowan, along with a list of other females in the industry, gained global attention with allegations against Harvey Weinstein for sexual misconduct. The serial predator was later found guilty in a court of law and is presently serving a 23-year sentence at a correctional facility. Inspired by the events, the biographical drama She Said released in theaters in October 2022 and followed the difficulties encountered by news reporters Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey of the New York Times when trying to break the story on the film mogul. Actress Rose McGowan proved pivotal in the takedown of who she refers to as the monster, and has since written a book about her experiences, as well as spoken openly about the matter.
In her book, she writes Weinstein pushes her into the suite's jacuzzi room and quickly removes her clothing. She says she's so shocked, she freezes like a statue.
1 minute you're in a meeting and the next minute you're in a bathroom. It's just like that.
She says Weinstein picks her up and places her on the edge of the jacuzzi. Then, she says, he begins to perform forced oral sex on her.
You write, you detached from my body. I hover up under the ceiling, watching myself sitting on the edge of the tub against a wall, held in place by the monster, whose face is between my legs, trapped by a beast. That's a nightmare.
Playing opposite Rose McGowan as Tatum Riley was Matthew Lillard as Stu Macher, the over-the-top jokester who wound up being more than Tatum bargained for.
Finding the right actor for the pivotal role of Stu Macher, Tatum's beau and Billy's best friend, proved to be a case of a young actor being at the right place at the right time.
The day that Matthew Lillard came in, he happened to be across the hall with his girlfriend who was working with another casting director. And I looked at him and I said, you look good for this part. Would you mind coming in and auditioning, please?
Next to Tatum sits her boyfriend, Stuart, with his arms draped across her back. He's a Billy wannabe. Almost the jock, almost handsome, almost cool. He tries way too hard.
Stu was with me last night, okay?
Yeah, it was. I go back and watch that, I'm like, first of all, I weigh 80 pounds. Second of all, I spit my way through the whole thing. And that vein that runs through the middle of my forehead is terrifying. I mean, that alone should have just automatically kicked me out of Hollywood.
The characters in the film Scream faced a different kind of terror, that of knife-wielding, mask-wearing killer Ghostface. But where did the mask come from? And who was hiding behind it?
No one could agree on a mask, and I remember we were on a location scout, and we found Ghostface was in a box of stuff in a garage that we were location scouting, and we asked the owner if we could take it, because Wes immediately looked at it and said, this is like the famous Scream painting. And so we took that to our production, and we said, can you make something, riff on this, and see if you can make something like this. So they must have done 20 different designs, and every one of them was rejected by the studio, and finally we were like, why don't we just get the rights to this mask? Because in the script it did say it was a dime store Halloween mask. And so that's exactly what we found.
But who was behind the mask or floating around Woodsboro spreading fear, violence, and bloodshed? Let's take a look at some of the frontrunners.
The first among them is Sydney's boyfriend, Billy, who despite his surface charms, would be the first of the film's many suspects.
He's charming and he's mysterious and he's, there's just a lot to him.
Billy is a really interesting character because there is something wrong with him. He's cool and he's good looking, so he gets a pass, which happens in real life.
Couldn't have been me. I was in jail. Remember?
Sydney's best friend and constant companion, Tatum Riley.
I made her really wide-eyed and just fun, not stupid, but just a kind of a great little effervescent being.
Tatum's boyfriend and Billy's best friend, Stu Mocker.
I had this, this kind of crazy youth and this energy and was fearless, and I just kind of was bouncing off the wall.
And finally, Randy Meeks, the quintessential geek who couldn't get the girl, but knew more than a thing or two about the inner workings of a horror movie.
If they watch Prom Night, they'd save time.
Okay, we know everything that's going to happen in horror movies, and so, my character was the one that actually helped say that. It was like kind of the voice of the people.
Let's not forget about news reporter Gail Weathers, who strongly believed Sydney falsely accused innocent man Cotton Weary, played by Liev Schreiber, for the murder of her mother Maureen Prescott the year prior. Gail proved herself to be the type of person who was willing to do just about anything to make a name for herself in the cutthroat world of journalism.
I know. That's why we need proof. If I'm right about this, I could save a man's life. Do you know what that could do for my book sales?
There was Deputy Dwight Dewey Riley with his Barney Fife-ish presence, who had some questioning of their initial inclinations. Somehow, Dewey always seemed to pop up at the right time, keeping some audience members wondering if he was in fact everything he presented himself to be.
I guess I just missed you. Of course, you don't look a day over 12, except in that upper torso area. Does the force require you to work out?
No, ma'am. Because of my boyish good looks, muscle mass has increased my acceptance as a Sears police officer.
Director Wes Craven of A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Hills Have Eyes, and The Last House on the Left described the movie Scream as a refreshing murder mystery that provided audience members with a much-needed outlet for their fears.
Well, it's kind of a hybrid. I think it is. It's kind of a new classic. I think there might be other films like it, where we start commenting on actual films and actual film actors and actresses. I think it's kind of refreshing in a way because we're really talking about a reality that's very much a part of our reality. Even though they're all sort of franchisable names and everything else, there's nothing harmful about talking about it in a film because it's part of life. So I think it's a murder mystery set, among kids who like horror films, but it really is kind of a thriller murder mystery set among that young world.
Craven died August 30th, 2015, and his death hit writer Kevin Williamson hard, as shown during an interview with Williamson shortly after the director's passing.
It's 1996. It came at a time when everyone really wanted a resurgence of horror films. I really rode the lightning in a bottle. I wish I could say, it was all this genius master plan, but it wasn't. It was just me, a struggling writer, trying to make it. And I, for the love of God, stumbled upon Wes Craven, who took wanted to make it. And sorry. He took a chance on me, and so it was, I look, it's 20 years, guys, and I'm sitting back going, how the hell did I get so old? And I look back on this film, and it's so full of memories. It's full of my beginning of my career.
Despite Williamson's humility, the script was highly sought after from the start. In fact, according to that shelf, the self-aware story created a fierce bidding war between studios and production companies, with the Weinsteins coming out on top. In the end, Williamson, who was believed to be inspired, at least partially, by the real-life story of the student-killing Gainesville Ripper and by the horror movie Halloween, took home a whopping $400,000 for his efforts, solidifying his name in horror and igniting the flame for future films in the franchise, the next being the aptly named Scream 2. The second installment in the beloved horror franchise shifted from a high school backdrop to that of a college. Neve Campbell reprised her role as lead character Sydney Prescott, while Courtney Cox did the same as Gale Weathers. Despite the fact that David Arquette's character, Dwight Dewey Riley, was set to die in the first film, he reemerged to the delight of fans everywhere. And the relationship between him and Cox led to what Arquette once described as a special gift.
Dewey was supposed to die in the first screen, and basically you were just too much of a hit.
Well, Wes Craven was sweet enough to say, well, David, we're gonna put you in a gurney, we'll roll you out, and we'll see if you make it or not. And then the second time we did it, he said, okay, this time just give a little thumbs up. I don't know if I'll use it or not, but thank God for Wes Craven, because I got a baby out of it.
Yeah, now this is...
I mean, not Wes Craven, thank Courtney Cox, but...
Yeah, that made it sound like the cast gift was that Wes Craven gave everyone a baby.
Scream 2 opened in a movie theater playing none other than the fictional adaptation of the first film's Woodsboro murders entitled Stab. Directed by Robert Rodriguez, this film within a film starred Tori Spelling as Sidney, Heather Graham as Casey, and Luke Wilson as Billy. Scream 2 opened with the brutal slaying of moviegoers Phil Stevens, played by Omar Epps of Higher Learning and Traffic, and Maureen Evans, played by Jada Pinkett of The Matrix Reloaded and Collateral. Unlike with other kills in the Scream universe, these two characters met their demise without Ghostface's signature phone call beforehand. The murder of C.C. Cooper, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar of the popular television series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and full-length motion picture I Know What You Did Last Summer, also appeared early on in the film. Fans and critics alike compared this sorority sober sister's death to that of Casey Becker in the original creation. When asked to predict where C.C. Cooper would be today if she had lived, Gellar stated the following.
My character died when she fell off the roof after Ghostface chased her. She would probably be, what's the job when you're an adult but you still act like you're president of sorority and you constantly go back and pretend like you're still in college but really you have no right to be there.
Rounding out the cast were Jerry O'Connell as Sydney's boyfriend Derek, Elise Neal as Sydney's best friend Hallie, Timothy Olyphant as the dark film student Mickey, and Laurie Metcalf as Billy Loomis's mother Nancy, also known as Debbie Salt. Secrecy shrouded the screenplay due to information leaks, which was why the actors were kept in the dark regarding the actual killer until the final shoot. Early versions of the script presented a very different ending, with Sydney's best friend Hallie and boyfriend Derek teaming up with Debbie Salt to spread murder and mayhem as Ghostface. Jamie Kennedy also returned in this highly anticipated sequel, reprising his role as the informative film nerd Randy Meeks and providing audience members with the rules once more, this time in the form of a sequelification.
Let's get down to business. The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel. You know, cash in on all the movie murder hoopla. So it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, the death scenes are always much more elaborate. More blood, more gore. Carnage, candy. Your core audience just expects it. And number 3, if you want your sequel to become a franchise, never, ever...
How do we find the killer, Randy? That's what I want to know.
Well, if I'm a suspect, you're a suspect.
You have a point. Okay, let's move on.
Despite the fact that Randy served as a crucial component to the meta nature of the film, he met with a bloody end to the disappointment of not only fans, but the actor himself.
To this day, people come up to me every week and like, you should have never died, you should have never died. And so, yeah, I would have not liked to have died. It would have been nice to keep going, but I mean, I understand that people have to die. I found out I was gonna die the night or two before. Courtney's a huge star. You know, you can't kill her off. Nev's our ingenue holds it together, you can't kill her off. There was a time where Dewey almost died, and then David will tell you, they did a thing with the thumbs up and he came back to life, and his character is so beautiful and funny that he kept going. I think if Randy had one like just thing of like maybe in the van like I think if they tested that, the audience might have said keep him alive, they would have. I think in hindsight they would have liked to keep him, but they didn't shoot an alternate.
Writer Kevin Williamson showed up in a cameo performance as the interviewer of the previously falsely accused and darkly insistent Cotton Weary, played by Liev Schreiber. Williamson drew inspiration from real-world events when penning the script, even presenting them in an almost parallel fashion, such as the nude scandals involving actress Courtney Cox and her character Gale Weathers. In a nutshell, Scream 2 offered a glimpse of art imitating life imitating art. Williamson and director Wes Craven infused a mixture of wit, transparency, and irony, along with a plethora of cliches and jump scares, to not only entertain but recapture some of the first film's success. But what was it like to work with the master of horror Wes Craven on set?
I think Wes is naturally a very funny guy. A lot of people think of him as this horror guru, voodoo witch doctor, but he's really a pleasant, hysterically funny dude.
You inspire me, sir.
It's called Make It Nice with the Director.
Scream 2 hit theaters shortly after the first film with a release date of December 1997. Because of the buzz and anticipation surrounding the sequel, other studios opted to adjust the release dates of their own films, simply to avoid having to compete against the slicing, dicing, and violence of the Ghostface killer. One such movie that made the change was none other than James Cameron's hugely successful romance drama, Titanic. The original Scream was a major success, remaining in theaters for 5 months, from December 1996 to May of 1997, a feat almost unheard of by today's box office standards. This created massive pressure on the sequel to repeat the success, while delivering a twist-laden final act that could match the original. With a runtime of approximately 2 hours, Scream 2 secured the designation of longest in the franchise. It was created on an estimated budget of $24 million and grossed well over $172 million worldwide. As a film that poked fun at the inferiority of sequels, Scream 2 addressed the probability of its own shortcomings in comparison to the first motion picture, while at the same time offering hope that it would be the exception to the rule.
Who have been immortalized on film.
Thank you. Right. Are you suggesting that someone's trying to make a real-life sequel?
Stab 2? Who'd want to do that? Sequels suck.
No, come on, man.
Oh, please, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
It's bullshit generalization. Many sequels have surpassed their original.
Oh, yeah?
Name one.
Yeah.
Aliens. Far better than the first.
Yeah, well, there's no accounting for taste.
Thank you, Ridley Scott rules. Name another.
No. Aliens is a classic, okay? Get away from her, you bitch.
I believe the line is stay away from her, you bitch. It's film class, right?
In the role of Mickey, Timothy Olyphant provided audience members with breadcrumbs for solving this unusual murder mystery, while at the same time begging the question, do movies cause violence, or does violence make movies more interesting?
Mickey is a sick fuck who wants to get caught. Yeah. See, I've got my whole defense planned out. I'm gonna blame the movies. That's where the real fun is, because these days it's all about the trial. Can't you see it? The effects of cinema violence on society. I'll get Dershowitz or Cochran to represent me. Bob Dole on the witness stand in my defense. Hell, the Christian Coalition will pay my legal fees. It's airtight, Sid. I'm an innocent victim.
You're a psychotic.
Yeah, well, shh. That'll be our little secret.
One of the more obvious hints for figuring out who the killer might be came in the form of a reference to horror movie classic Friday the 13th, in which Pamela Voorhees, rather than her son, sliced her way through the youths at Camp Crystal Lake in an act of vengeance. Much like Voorhees, Billy Loomis's mother Nancy, also known as Debbie Salt, sought revenge for what she believed to be the wrongful death of her son. Though a shroud of secrecy surrounded the film during its making due to script leaks, Scream 2 finally reached its climax in operatic fashion on a theater stage, bringing the theme of life imitating art, imitating life, full circle.
What we are really continuing is the story of the heroine, of Neve Campbell's character.
Is it weird to do it with the scrutiny of the internet, as you mentioned before? Everyone dying to know what happens in the movie, who lives, who dies?
That has been very strange. The first 40 pages that came in from Kevin, I think the next night they were on the internet.
Wow.
We had no idea how they got there, but we suddenly realized, my God, this is a new day. You really have to take extraordinary measures. So thereafter, we all bought shredders and we were printing out on paper that couldn't be Xeroxed and passes, and I literally shred every call sheet I have at the end of the day after I do my shot list for the next day. I shred everything. I look like a confetti manufacturer, you know, if you look at me in trash day.
We didn't get the last scene until the day we were shooting it.
Jerry was just telling us, you guys didn't exactly get to take the script home and show it to everybody.
No, you know what was very funny? Before I got the job, you know, I hadn't even read the script. And I started to dawn on me, like, what if I'm just not in this for more than 2 minutes?
Survivor Sidney Prescott not only breathed life into her onstage character Cassandra, a cursed woman from the fall of Troy, but also provided audience members with a glimpse of the psychological damage caused by experiences as a teenager in Woodsboro. Though the fall of Troy falls squarely under the umbrella of Greek tragedy, parallels can be drawn to Dario Argento's 1977 supernatural horror flick Suspiria and 1987 horror mystery Opera. As with Argento's creations, the onstage moment in Scream 2 utilized an art house approach to storytelling through stylish camera work, strong visual language, bewitching movement, and cinematography rich in a palette of deep reds, yellows, and black. Though unplanned, the song played during the final scene in the movie was switched from Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve to She Said by Collective Soul, the latter sharing a title with the 2022 motion picture on the Harvey Weinstein scandal in which actress Rose McGowan of the first Scream film was involved.
So now, fate's vengeful eye is fixed on me.
Whether you love, hate, or are just plain ambivalent about the meta approach employed in the film, Scream 2 spawned the next in the line of Ghostface killer films, Scream 3. Fan favorites Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette once again reprised their roles as Sidney Prescott, Gale Weathers, and Dwight Dewey Riley, respectively, in this third installment of the Scream franchise. Following a similar trajectory as its predecessors, albeit Hollywoodized, the film opened with a violent kill, the targets this time being the formerly falsely accused talk show host Cotton Weary, played by Liv Schreiber of Ray Donovan, and his girlfriend Christine Hamilton, played by Kelly Rutherford of Gossip Girl.
Behind you!
It was a simple game, Cotton. You should have told me where Sidney was.
Written by Aaron Kruger and Leda Kalogridis, with the original outline by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven, Scream 3 had a runtime of 1 hour and 56 minutes. With an estimated budget of $40 million, this metafilm grossed slightly over $160 million worldwide, but was not as well received as the first two movies. Scream 3 opened in February of 2000, less than a year after the tragic shooting spree at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado, where 18-year-old Eric Harris and 17-year-old Dylan Klebold killed 12 students and a teacher, as well as wounded 21 others, in a span of less than 20 minutes before turning the guns on themselves and committing suicide. The tragedy not only impacted the world, but altered the path of this full-length motion picture.
You know, originally I was supposed to be the killer in Scream 3. Yeah, Scream 3 was originally conceived that Stu was running a collection of kids in high school that did horrible things. And right before we went into production, Columbine High School broke out. So I would like to argue on behalf of the Stu fans out there that he is still alive.
Though Matthew Lillard's part as Schumacher was nixed on account of the changing social climate, one character was brought back from the dead by means of technology to deliver the rules of what was supposed to be the final film in the franchise, thus making the collection a trilogy. Jamie Kennedy as popular Randy Meeks provided audience members with the trillification. Due to constant changes, the creators obtained over 2 hours of footage for Meeks' 3-minute scene.
There are a few things that you gotta remember. Is this simply another sequel? Well, if it is, same rules apply. But here's the critical thing. If you find yourself dealing with an unexpected backstory and a preponderance of exposition, then the sequel rules do not apply, because you are not dealing with a sequel. You are dealing with the concluding chapter of a trilogy. One, you got a killer who's gonna be superhuman. Stabbing him won't work, shooting him won't work. Basically, in the third one, you gotta cryogenically freeze his head, decapitate him, or blow him up. Number two, anyone, including the main character, can die. This means you, Sid. I'm sorry. It's the final chapter. It could be fucking Reservoir Dogs by the time this thing is through. Number three, the past will come back to bite you in the ass. Whatever you think you know about the past, forget it. The past is not at rest. Any sins you think were committed in the past are about to break out and destroy you.
Early on in the film, audience members found Sydney living a secluded life, with her whereabouts unknown to the vast majority of the world. After learning about murders associated with the Woodsboro killings and its fictional adaptation Stab, Sydney re-emerged and traveled to Hollywood, where Stab 3 was in production, in order to face down her costume nemesis once more. Of course, Sydney was not alone. Dewey Riley and Gale Weathers went along on this terrifyingly bloody whodunit adventure. Rounding out the cast were Patrick Dempsey of Grey's Anatomy, who was brought on as Detective Mark Kincaid a mere day before the shooting started. Parker Posey of Dazed and Confused as actress Jennifer Jolie, and Scott Foley of Felicity as the movie director Roman Bridger, Sydney's half-brother and the antagonist in the film.
Scream 3 sort of is I don't know, the bastard stepchild of the Scream trilogy. Right. And I think they did a good job. Look, for a third film in a trilogy when there was only, one planned, I think they did a really good job. And I have to tell you, going into that, when I was cast, I had no idea I was the killer. And they didn't tell me until about 2 weeks into production, where the producer, this woman who worked with Wes Craven for years, Marianne Magdalena, said, "Hey, you know, right?" And I was like, "I know what? What are there, hot dogs at craft service? What do I know?" And she said, "You're the killer." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And I went back to my room and I thought, "Oh man, that's so cool." Like, if you're in a Scream film, like, be the killer.
Unlike Foley, actress Emily Mortimer, who played Angelina Tyler, was surprised to learn that her character had in essence been benched and was no longer a part of Team Ghostface.
The thing is that what they do to you in these Scream movies, what they did, which is quite mean, is that they make you all believe that you are the murderer. And you get the feeling that you are, and you get quite sort of delusions of grandeur, and you go around, and then you perform in every scene as if you're killing everybody. But then you get to the end and you're not the murderer.
The reveal of Roman Bridger as Sydney's half-brother was described aptly as an unexpected backstory of Randy Meeks. This one involved a course of events that would ultimately shape the lives of both Sydney Prescott and her mother Maureen. Actor Lance Henriksen of Aliens played sleazy film producer Milton John, a character some have now connected to Harvey Weinstein and the Hollywood system that contributed to the long-standing sexual abuse with which he has become synonymous. The list of actresses who accused Weinstein of wrongdoing included Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Beckinsale, Angelina Jolie, Ashley Judd, Asia Argento, and many more. Interestingly enough, Weinstein himself served as executive producer of Scream 3, in essence playing a role in the critique of his own abusive behavior and Hollywood's oppressively dark underbelly.
The techniques Harvey Weinstein used are, I think, important for us all to talk about, because while they are extreme, they open a window into a set of tools available if you're that rich and that powerful and that bent on stopping dissent about you. As the world knows now, Harvey Weinstein was surrounded by allegations going back decades from women who said that he sexually harassed and assaulted them.
Do you have any advice for a young girl moving to Hollywood?
I'll get live with us. Harvey Weinstein invites you to a private party and 4 seasons stuff.
They were described as an open secret for years in Hollywood, but they never broke, and there are a lot of reasons for that. In the fall of 2016, Harvey Weinstein became aware that a number of women were starting to talk. One of the precipitating events for that was Rose McGowan, the actress, tweeted, saying that Harvey Weinstein, she heavily implied without naming him, was, in her words, her rapist. She then set off a series of events that I think she could have never fathomed.
While Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison, Milton John met with a very different ending in the film.
I know who you are. I know what happened to my mother, and I want you to understand. I'm gonna make you pay.
That's what the police are gonna find on Milton's answering machine, right next to his lifeless, mutilated corpse. What? Can't hear you.
You don't have to do this, Roman. Just tell me what you want. I can make it happen. Any picture, name your budget, script approval, final cut.
I already have it.
Though Meryl Streep reportedly turned down the opportunity to do a cameo performance in Scream 3, director Wes Craven made an appearance, as did actors Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, well known for playing comedic characters Jay and Silent Bob, respectively. Carrie Fisher also appeared in the film, poking fun at the industry and her role as Princess Leia in Star Wars.
I was up for Princess Leia. I was this close. So who gets it? The one who sleeps with George Lucas.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring up a sore subject for you.
Sure you didn't. None of them did. So how can I help you? Or do you want me to tell you who you look like?
As it happened, Courtney Cox's look changed dramatically with a haircut that drew questions from both fans and audience members alike. And it still haunts the actress to this very day.
Each Scream, I would try to come up with a different look for her that was just over the top gross or ugly or too much. Whether it was this blonde. Oh, well, that was the worst. I don't want to, I forgot about that. There's nothing worse. But that was a big lesson in life because that will forever be on film. And we only had one set of bangs. And I remember they were cut on the set. You're supposed to have like a thing that starts back here, far back, and that's where the part goes for the bangs. For some reason, someone put it here and started cutting, and I went, well, I don't have a choice now.
I remember that day because we were all like, no, they're good, really.
The highest voice of the day, the pitch.
Perhaps one reason for the Scooby-Doo-like story of Scream 3 was the absence of Kevin Williamson, who was at the time one of the hottest writers in Hollywood with a hefty plate of projects. Williamson was only able to provide a 5-page outline for both sequels, leaving the script writing to Aaron Kruger, who made heavy changes to Williamson's original vision. Williams' treatment was discarded in a conscious effort to reduce the level of violence in the film after the Columbine tragedy, while Kruger's took hold. But did the final product impress the original writer? The answer seemed to be a resounding no. In fact, Williamson called the project more kitschy and campy than scary, and went on record as stating, "From a writing standpoint, I could tell it was from a different hand." Though actress Neve Campbell felt differently about the script, she had her own struggles with a tight schedule filled with other projects. Available for only 20 days of the shoot, Campbell's on-screen presence was far less noticeable than the previous two films.
Sydney's dealt with a lot in her life. No, she's been pretty messed up. So within this film, she's kind of gone into hiding, become more reclusive in her life because of all the circumstances that she's been through. And this film is sort of surrounding the making of Stab 3 and how she has to be brought out again into the circumstances. I don't think there'll be a 4. I think that's kind of the point. I think we're all really happy with the fact that this will sort of be the finish and trying not to make it one of these films that we sort of have go on forever.
Perhaps Campbell's exhaustion played a part in the mishap in which she missed her mark and caused actor Scott Foley to cry out in pain for real. The location of the showdown scene between Sydney and her brother happened to be the school in which a different kind of mass killer spread terror and bloodshed. Halloween H2O. Plagued by script delays, changes, and scheduling issues, the film also contained multiple continuity errors to include, but not limited to, the alternating length of Roman Bridger's sideburns in the final act, disappearance of blood on Gale Weathers' hand, and even a 6-round revolver that magically popped off 7 shots.
Gale, behind you!
As a member of the Scream universe, this third film in the franchise would have fallen outside the norm if it had failed to offer some form of commentary. But what message were the creators trying to impart?
Well, I think from Scream 3 you can expect more freshness, more surprises, new characters intermingling with old familiar characters in shocking and new ways. And you can also fairly expect a resolution to a lot of things, a kind of returning to the whole theme of the entire 3 movies, and some shocking, surprising, and almost explicatory revelations about the whole story and the characters behind it. You know, things that explain what the whole thing meant.
Ranked the worst film of those in the lot. According to Rotten Tomatoes, Scream 3 earned a mere 41% on the tomato meter by critics and 37% by audience members. And it did not fare much better on Metacritic, where it came in only slightly higher than Scream 4, with a rating of 56. Of course, the horror genre has always had its fair share of naysayers.
The genres kind of go in and out of style, you know? And there's obviously an outlet for people to express fear or the state of being scared with a whole group of people.
Whether Scream 3 lived up to the audience members' expectations or not, the creators flagged it as the final chapter in the series.
We don't want there to be a Scream 4 and 5 and 6.
Scream director Wes Craven has always envisioned Scream as a trilogy of films.
So there's not going to be any more after this.
But as the old saying goes, you should never say never. And Wes Craven's prediction of Scream 3 putting an end to the self-aware horror series was proven wrong with the release of Scream 4 in April of 2011.
Here is my Woodsboro Massacre anniversary question. What is your favorite scary movie?
What's your favorite scary movie?
One generation's tragedy is the next one's joke.
There's a killer out there patterning his murders after the original movie.
It's time for someone new to die.
The unexpected is the new cliche, and virgins can die now.
You can't kill Sydney. She's victim royalty.
Not true. Sid's expendable.
Point taken. Guaranteed third act main cast bloodbath.
Fingers crossed on some nudity for a change.
The typographically skewed fourth installment of the American slasher series Scream was written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven, and starred Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette as Sidney Prescott, Gale Weathers, and Dwight Dewey Riley, respectively. Roger L. Jackson also returned to lend voice to the masked killer Ghostface.
What movie?
Same one Marnie's in, only her part got cut way back. But you're the dumb blonde with the big tits. We'll have some fun with you before you die.
I'm working with Courtney, David, Neve. It's a very relaxed kind of family feel, and I think I know how to bring out the best in them, and they know how to bring out the best in me in a way. And the characters are known and they're rich, so it's a pleasure. I think there's just immense amount of respect that goes back and forth between all of us. I mean, I know what all of their jobs are. I absolutely respect everything everybody does, and I think they all respect me and want me to get the picture I want. So it's just a group of people really tightly bound by time and history together, and skill sets that we can all do our best work together, and that's a great thing.
Newcomers included Emma Roberts as Sidney's niece and primary antagonist Jill Roberts, and Rory Culkin as the president of the Woodsboro Cinema Club and secondary antagonist Charlie Walker.
For me, I mean, I was obviously too young to ever see it when it came out in theaters, but it was one of those movies that I saw when I was a teenager, and all my friends were obsessed with wanting to watch scary movies, and this was one of the first few I saw, and I remember thinking it was probably the scariest just because out of all the horror movies of like my generation, I think this is the most like real kind of, it's the most plausible, and that's why it's so freaky, like when a phone rings, you're kind of freaked out, and when you see those like big glass windows, you know what I'm talking about. It's scary. So it was definitely creepy. My friends keep calling me and doing the voice and saying, what's your favorite scary movie? And as much as I know it's a joke, I still can't help but be like looking over my shoulder a little bit because it's creepy.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, they were sort of in our position 10, 15 years earlier, so.
15 years now.
15. Yeah, so they understood where we were coming from. It was pretty cool.
They're all fossil-like. They're old. We're the new generation of the Scream franchise. I mean, they're just tired and old and bitter.
Fan favorite Hayden Panettiere was also in the film and played Kirby Reed, Jill's friend and Charlie's unrequited love interest, until such point that it was too late.
Yeah, she's a very different character than I've ever played. She's kind of a tomboy. She's got that edge to her, that dry, sarcastic sense of humor, which I loved playing. And underneath, she's this horror movie buff that you don't expect from her. So she's very surprising.
In the tradition of its predecessors, Scream 4 began with a violent kill. But all was not as it appeared with a pattern designed like nested Russian dolls, with a movie within a movie within a movie.
What does it say?
It says I'm not outside. I'm right beside you.
Even the opening scene, there's always some random girl who gets a call that undoubtedly ends up getting her killed. It's also predictable. There's no element of surprise. You can see everything coming. Ah!
Did that surprise you?
Oh my god, I love it. I've seen it 5 times and it still gets me every time.
Taking place 10 years after Scream 3, audience members find Sidney Prescott in good mental health, having even written a self-help book entitled Out of the Darkness. Part of what attracted Neve Campbell to the role was in fact the strength and endurance of this well-known horror protagonist.
I think what was great about Sidney, obviously in these films, what she represents is the eyes of the audience. And I think the audience are, because they feel connected to her and connected to maybe her vulnerability or to her strength, whatever it is, they follow her story. And I think that's why she's been important to these stories. What I like about the character is that she's not so much a victim. I mean, in the first one, she obviously is more of a victim and more vulnerable, but even towards the end, she starts to become stronger. In this film, it's 10 years later, she's definitely a fighter. She's very strong, she's older, she's more mature, she's got a handle on her life and in a better place. So that's the shift now.
Sidney returned to Woodsboro as part of her book tour and reconnected with family as well as with old friends Dwight Dewey Riley, who has taken on the reins of town sheriff, and Gale Weathers, who cannot seem to get over a case of career-impairing writer's block.
It was great. It was really fun. We had the same crew, too, so we had the same DP and everybody, so that was great. And then you see the new kids come on, and they're all excited if it's you know, and which got us excited. But the first scene that we did together was like, oh, it just was so nice to Dewey and Gale having their kind of silly antics together.
Yeah, it's fun. I love working with Courtney. Acting opposite her, it's a lot of fun. I think it goes back to the original a lot. I mean, there's a real similar energy and electricity about it. It sort of parallels the first film. To me, it's my favorite sequel of the series. So, you know, it was fun to see this new cast of people, like, you know, actors and actresses coming in that kind of reminded me of us when we first started.
Though real-life partners David Arquette and Courtney Cox were separated during the filming of the 4th installment, they approached the project in a professional manner and kept their interactions on a friendly level.
We're still we're separated, but we're working on ourselves and our relationship and sort of figuring out what we want. You know, life's complicated and people go through changes and, you know, I've been reading a lot of things about myself. I'm reading books that talk about feelings and changes, and she's been working on herself a lot too. And the great thing is that we really love each other and that we're really amazing parents together and very supportive, and I'm her biggest fan and she's my biggest fan. And, you know, that's what it's all about, really. You know,
David and I, it was very easy for us. We really respect each other and we help each other. I mean, I respect his opinion so much that I'm always asking him, what do you think? And I think it's very easy. It's very, very easy to work with him.
While the film followed a similar formula as its predecessors, to keep audience members interested, the creators added a twist that reflected the changing times.
The basic core idea of the twist of the story that is in this that is really quite amazing and makes it something completely new. It's like I read it and it's why didn't I ever think of that? That's amazing. And that is right at the core of this story. And I think that thing alone makes this really unique. But there's just a tremendous analysis of the last 10 years of horror. One of the opening scenes they're talking about torture porn and, you know, the way the internet and film have merged, what's going on in the world, what kind of generations have been sort of engendered by films of that sort and watching those sorts of film. It's really intellectually, artistically, and sort of scarily, really interestingly woven together in a way that's fresh and new.
With the character of Randy Meeks, who served as the primary educator of audience members on the rules of horror movies, officially gone, the creators needed to select another to pick up those important movification reins. And who better to do so than the president of Woodsboro High's Cinema Club, Charlie Walker, and his vice president sidekick, Robbie Mercer.
You film your entire high school experience and post it on the net?
Everybody will be doing it someday, Sid.
It's kind of the one component the killer is missing.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, if you want to be the new version, the killer should be filming the murders.
Yeah, it's like the natural next step in a psycho-slasher innovation. I mean, you film them all real time, and then before you get caught, you upload them into cyberspace.
Who do you think is behind the murders?
Well, it's a stab fanatic, clearly. Working on less of a Shriekquel and more of a screenmake.
Copyrighted terms, by the way.
Because all there are now are remakes. Only horror the studio's greenlight. I mean, there are still rules, but the rules have changed. The unexpected is the new cliche. Modern audiences get savvy to the rules of the originals. So the reversals become the new standard. In fact, the only surefire way to survive a modern horror movie, you pretty much have to be gay.
The horror-loving teenagers were not the only ones conscious of the rules, however. Even the officers stationed outside Sydney's house for protection knew a thing or two about what to expect in the realm of unexpected and self-aware film. Unfortunately for Deputies Perkins and Hoss, played by Anthony Anderson and Adam Brody, respectively, knowledge proved insufficient in the presence of the slicing, dicing killer known as Ghostface.
What the fuck? Ah!
Fuck Bruce Willis. Anderson and Brody reminisced about what they learned on set.
Now, so much of your role together has to do with the rules in horror movies.
Yeah.
So were there any that you learned on the set? Any sort of favorites?
Well, that's interesting. Well, there's a new one in the movie where you can survive if you're gay is a good way to survive. So that was new to me, and I learned that.
And you learned that it doesn't work.
And yet our characters were gay, and didn't really matter.
Speak for
Oh,
yourself.
I didn't pick up on that actually.
Speak for yourself.
In the movie.
I'm bi.
I play with a lot of layers.
I see.
It's not just what's on the surface.
Right.
We're not going to talk about the other things that you play with.
Even Jill's friend Kirby demonstrated an extensive knowledge of the genre when tested by the masked killer.
Please just ask me one more question, just one more.
All right, Kirby. Then it's time for your last chance question. Name the remake of the groundbreaking horror movie in which the villain...
Halloween, Texas Chainsaw, Dawn of the Dead, The Hills Have Eyes, Amityville Horror, Last House on the Left, Friday the 13th, and A Nightmare on Elm Street, My Bloody Valentine, When a Stranger Calls, Prom Night, Black Christmas, House of Wax, The Fog, Piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
Setting the record straight about her experiences on Scream 4, Hayden Panettiere shared what it was like on set.
And we're just having a great time. Wes Craven is an amazing human being, and he is such a nice guy, and it is such a pleasure to work with him. And directors really set the tone of the set a lot of the times, and you can just see it. You can feel that the crew's at ease. They're able to have fun. It's not like twisting their arm to come to work. They actually really, really enjoy it. So it's been a blast thus far.
As with the other films in the franchise, secrecy surrounded Scream 4, which some cast members, like Emma Roberts, found stressful.
Scream 4. I have to ask you about Scream 4. Very successful. People love the Scream franchise, and this last one people seem to really like.
Yeah, so far they seem to really love it.
They are, the secret of these seems to be, first of all, they're so secretive about who the killer might be that they even take it to extremes. Wes Craven will not even let the cast know very much. He keeps secrets from them, and he also, I guess they're really strict about who gets a script, who doesn't get a script,
Yes.
how the script is distributed.
It was really stressful this whole time because we shot last summer, this whole months till the movie comes out because you have to keep the secret.
Right.
And even on set, they give you a script and your name is on every page of the script. So if you lose it, it's not only did the secret get out, but it's like, oh, and Emma Roberts was the one that lost her script. And I remember going to set one day and I dropped it and the pages just went everywhere in this parking lot. And I'm literally running around the parking lot picking up the pages like, oh my God, did I lose any? Did I lose any? And literally the last 10 pages were floating away and I was chasing them around the parking lot for 10 minutes trying to get them all.
And just you're about to get them, a helicopter starts to land and...
But what changes were made to the script during the evolution of the film? And which of the other characters were considered for the honor of playing the iconic Ghostface killer? In the earlier versions of Scream 4, Dewey and his wife Gail lived a far more domesticated life and even had a child. And at one point, the fate of Kirby was solidified. It wasn't until Bob and Harvey Weinstein interfered with the project that a scene in which Kirby survived was removed. And according to certain sources, interference from the producers did not end there. Tensions mounted between Williamson and the Weinsteins, and despite Williamson's commitment to the project, writer Aaron Kruger of Scream 3 was brought back by the producers to perform some uncredited screenplay alterations, ultimately impacting the outcome of the film.
You know what? Fuck you.
You ready for that Q&A?
Fuck you.
With regard to the character nixed as one of the Ghostface killers, well, that would have been none other than Deputy Ross Hosp, played by Adam Brody. Despite losing out on the carving and skewering, Brody enjoyed his time on set.
I play Deputy Ross Hoss, and he is one of a string of deputies. Myself, Anthony Anderson, Marley Shelton, and we're all under Sheriff now, Dewey's command, and it's completely dysfunctional. You know, we can't save a life to save our life. Yeah.
Well, when you look kind of back at Dewey's original character back in the first, he was kind of bumbling and unable to do his job. Is that sort of what you embodied here, the three of you?
Did you take over his position?
I would say, oddly, Marley Shelton is probably the most competent, and then Anthony and I just, don't have a clue.
Is it fun playing that? I mean, most of the characters I've seen you play are pretty astute.
No, I've done it twice now. I've played cops. Playing a dumb person with a gun is so fun. I love it. I would do that role every time if I could.
Does it come naturally to you? I mean,
It does. It's so easy to usurp authority by being stupid, and I love it. I don't know. Put a wrench in the gears.
Even though Deputy Hoss failed to produce bloodshed by his own hand, that did not stop the film from having the highest kill count in the franchise to date, with a total of 14 deaths, not including Kirby, whose demise was never fully shown. Tying for second were Scream 2 and Scream 3 with 10 deaths each, followed by the original Scream with 7. Of course, the number includes Billy Loomis and his murderous partner Stu Macher, the latter of whom may or may not be alive. Finally, Scream 5 toned down the violence with a mere 8 kills. Though not a complete disaster, Scream 4 did not fare as well as the films in the franchise that preceded it. Created on an estimated budget of $40 million, this 1 hour and 51-minute full-length motion picture failed to crack the $100 million mark, grossing just over $97 million worldwide, according to IMDb. Scream 4 was the last film by director Wes Craven before his death on August 30th, 2015, after a 3-year struggle with brain cancer. The director was 76 years old.
Wes Craven is likely best known for this horror classic, Nightmare on Elm Street, which hit the big screen in 1984. It starred a then unknown Johnny Depp, and it spawned numerous sequels, as did 1996's Scream.
Do you want to die, Sydney? Your mother sure didn't.
It was this movie, Scream, one of that year's highest-grossing films, that helped cement Craven's status. It was credited with reinvigorating the teen horror film and was the basis for an MTV series of the same name that Craven produced. Tonight, his family released a statement saying in part, Craven was surrounded by love in the presence of his family at his Los Angeles home. It went on to say he was creatively engaged and working until the end. Several notable Hollywood stars took to Twitter to express their condolences. Courtney Cox, one of the Scream stars, tweeted, "Today the world lost a great man, my friend and mentor Wes Craven. My heart goes out to his family."
Other films directed by Craven included The Last House on the Left, Red Eye, The Hills Have Eyes, Cursed, The People Under the Stairs, Vampire in Brooklyn, My Soul to Take, and many, many more. The number of films in Craven's filmography totaled 26, a respectable body of work for this highly respected horror movie icon. Craven's passing hit the industry hard and especially impacted the actors, actresses, and writers fortunate enough to work on set with him.
Wes Craven, you always think of him as the king of horror. He is an incredible director, but he's also an incredible human.
I might start crying when we start talking about Wes.
He was like a father in a lot of ways to all of us.
Wes Craven called me to his house. That was our first meeting. He was going to give me notes on the script.
and they were all typos. That was the beauty of Wes Craven. He was such a kind soul.
We are fans on a level that is hard to express. He made horror cool.
Scary movies somehow take you on a roller coaster ride.
Ready, and action!
Craven's strong sense of humor came through when he sat down to talk about his experiences on his final project, Scream 4.
I know you're out in the parking lot signing autographs for some of your fans. You have fans that are very, 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 very into what you do, don't you?
Yeah, several tried to kill me, actually.
Yeah, in your genre, I guess it would attract an unusual group. How many horror films have you directed now?
I don't know. Over 20, I'm sure.
More than 20?
Yeah.
You don't even bother to count them?
No.
You murdered hundreds of people. True?
I consider it just move them on to a better place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and with the new Scream movie, isn't everyone in that town dead now? How is there anyone left to kill?
Housing is very cheap there, so people keep moving in, you know?
Unlike the original view of Scream 3, Scream 4 was not necessarily meant to serve as the end. Rather, the idea of it being transformed into a new trilogy made the rounds amongst professionals.
Have you started thinking about Scream 5, maybe?
No, I'm actually just kind of getting some sleep for the first time in a year and a half. So, but there is an idea for a trilogy. So, we'll have to go back to the mind of Kevin and see what he comes up with.
Though not as successful as the other movies in the franchise, Scream 4 found its fan base and did well enough for the next film in the series to be greenlit, Scream 5.
This is your life now, which means that whoever this is going to keep coming for you. You ready for this?
Released in January of 2022, Scream 5 was the first installment in the franchise not to be distributed by Dimension Films. Rather, Paramount Pictures took the honor. The film was written by James Vanderbilt of Zodiac and Guy Busick of Ready or Not, and was directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette of Ready or Not and VHS. The cast included originals Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, Courtney Cox as Gale Weathers, David Arquette as Dwight Dewey Riley, and Skeet Ulrich returning as Billy Loomis. Scream newcomer Melissa Barrera was cast without an audition as Sam Carpenter, while the rest of the younger actors and actresses included Jenna Ortega as Tara Carpenter, Jack Quaid as Richie Kirsch, and Mikey Madison as Amber Freeman. The premise of the film revolved around the younger characters recruiting the help of the older characters to figure out the person or persons involved in the murders of individuals related to the original Ghostface killers. Just as some of its predecessors, the film reflected the social change of the times, only in this case by mentioning obsessed fan connections through the internet, subreddits, or Discord chats. Though it seemed that many, if not most, in the sequel contained their fair share of movie knowledge, Randy Meek's relative, Mindy Meeks Martin, played by Jasmine Savoy Brown, came out on top as the quintessential queen of horror trivia by providing audience members with what some may call a requalification.
Our killer is writing his own version of Stab 8, but doing it as a requel.
Which is?
See, you can't just reboot a franchise from scratch anymore. The fans won't stand for it. Black Christmas, Child's Play, Flatliners, that shit doesn't work. But you can't just do a straight sequel either. You gotta build something new, but not too new, or the internet goes bug fucking nuts. It's gotta be part of an ongoing storyline, even if the story shouldn't have been ongoing in the first place. New main characters, yes, but supported by and related to legacy characters. Not quite a reboot, not quite a sequel, like the new Halloween, Saw, Terminator, Jurassic Park, Ghostbusters, fuck, even Star Wars. It always goes back to the original.
Are you telling me that I'm caught in the middle of fan fucking fiction?
Not just in the middle, Sam. You're the star.
As it happened, Mindy did not educate fans and film viewers alone. Former town sheriff Dwight Dewey Riley, though down on his luck after his divorce from Gale Weathers and still suffering from the loss of his sister Tatum, as evidenced by the box of ashes he still kept on his mantle, cut in to fill the bloody gaps with additional insights and the latest in the horror movie rules.
Your killer's obsessed with the stab movies, right? Well, there's certain rules to surviving a stab movie. Believe me, I know. Rule number 1, never trust the love interest. They seem sweet, caring, supportive, and then welcome to Act 3 where they're trying to rip your head off.
I was with Sam in Modesto when Tara was attacked.
And let me guess, you were just in the other room, conveniently unaccounted for when she was attacked at the hospital.
Okay, do I have to take this from shitty Sam Elliott over here, or what?
Rule number 2, the killer's motive is always connected to something in the past.
I'm related to Billy.
Right, but then why kill that random Vince guy?
That's for you to figure out. And rule number 3, and this is the most important rule. The first victim always has a friend group that the killer is a part of. Does your sister have a close-knit group of friends?
The interweaving of the old with the new to produce a film capable of attracting a wider audience base led to a mixture of generations on set and in the final product. But what was it like for the actors and actresses involved? When sitting down for an interview, Courtney Cox playfully remarked about this new set of film stars and their professional ways.
Well, Gen Z will just be like, I don't give a They won't even try. They'll just be like, whatever. Excuse me, if you're gonna kill me, I just gotta send this one Snapchat.
Joking aside, Neve Campbell revealed a fond memory working on set with one particular newcomer, while David Arquette told of the unique way he went about bonding with this next generation of actors in the Scream movie franchise.
Yeah, it was a really sweet moment. Melissa, who's one of the main characters in this film, she had her first scene with Courtney and I, and we started the scene, and they said cut, and she had tears in her eyes. She started crying, and I was like, are you okay? And she was just so excited to work with Courtney and I and to be a part of the film that she couldn't comprehend it. And it was just, it was adorable. It was really great.
It was funny to watch them. It was kind of like watching us 25 years ago. They all got along really well. And I gave the whole cast a Bob Ross painting lesson because I'm a certified Bob Ross instructor. So that was a fun little bonding thing. And then they were all watching horror movies. It was just, I can't say enough about this cast. And the directors did an incredible job. It's scary and it's funny and it's really exciting.
David Arquette, in like the first week, sat us all down in this common room that we had in the hotel where we played all the board games, and he just taught us how to paint like Bob Ross. He is a certified Bob Ross painting instructor, because of course he is. And we were all kind of on these tables around him. He sat in the middle and checked in on our artwork like he was like a real art teacher, because he is. And, I don't know if this was intended as like a hint or anything, but the philosophy of Bob Ross is very much like, don't overthink it.
Though Scream 5, which was created on an estimated budget of $24 million, fared better than Scream 4, but not as well as some of the other installments, and grossed slightly over $140 million. Some found fault with the film. Reviewer Brian Tallarico of RogerEbert.com, for example, critiqued the less than memorable performances by the younger cast members, as well as took stabs at directors Matt Bettinelli-Open and Tyler Gillette for relying too heavily on melodrama. In essence, lacking the horrifically developed touch of their role model, Wes Craven, while at the same time paying tribute to the Nightmare on Elm Street director.
So when I got the script for the new Scream, I was really impressed by Matt and Tyler with how much Wes had an impression on them.
Anything we got right in this movie is because of Wes Craven.
Hello?
Would you like to play a game, Tara?
Sid, it's happening again.
I had been apprehensive about doing another one without Wes, but Matt and Tyler really wanted to honor him. It's fun to get into it again.
I've done 4 Screams with Wes Craven. I was like, oh wow, what a perfect way to reinvent this movie.
They love the original. They want to honor Wes, and it's so scary.
How this new cast connects to the legacy cast, that's what's going to make this movie super special. And I was hoping that they were going to dedicate the film to Wes. And they did.
Of course, other critics disagreed and appreciated the manner in which the creators reinvigorated the franchise through self-awareness and a masterfully bloody indictment of toxic fandom. In fact, the film earned a respectable rating of 76% on the tomato meter by critics on Rotten Tomatoes and 81% by audience members. But how did the idea of a requel come to pass in the first place? Co-writers Vanderbilt and Busick explained their thought process while developing the script.
One thing that was really important to both of us was we wanted to give those actors something new to play. We wanted the characters to be in a very different place than the audience had ever seen them in, because that was the hope was to get all three of them back, and we wanted to give them something fun and new. And when Kevin weighed in on like where we saw the three characters, and very favorably, that we kind of very visibly probably relaxed and went, okay, we're off to a good start. Now let's get into the story and like who's the killer and what are the set pieces. And it was just so fun and exciting and as Jamie said, very surreal.
There is a very specific fun to Scream movies that doesn't really exist as much in other slashers. There's a sort of an exuberance and kind of a joy for the genre in a way, and I feel like there have been so many great horror movies in the last 10 years, but this particular flavor to me feels like it's been missing. And so I think that they're really going to respond to. I think our young cast is incredible. I think we've gotten a group of actors together who are all going to have amazing careers.
One Scream fan stood out from the crowd and even earned a part in the film for his love of the franchise as well as his sharp talents. That newcomer was Mason Gooding, who drew attention for having written a college essay on the original Scream film.
So I went actually to school for writing, and I couldn't be more appreciative of the education I got from the New York University. And to be honest, I'm appreciative for my education in a multitude of ways, but mainly one such that I now feel like I can spot a good piece of literature as well as a good script and allow my sort of look from within and without of the work itself and see where I fit in, see where the statement in the narrative is being made and how I agree with it, and then kind of inform how I approach a character, a piece of art.
Like Emma Roberts of Scream 4, born to actors Eric Roberts of The Dark Knight and Kelly Cunningham of Silent Love Stories 2, Mason Gooding grew up with a famous parent, none other than Academy Award winner for Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Cuba Gooding Jr.
Your dad is Cuba Gooding Jr. What was he like as a parent when you were in high school?
Oh my goodness. Supportive, which is funny because you have to be supportive from a distance as an actor. You have to take a lot of time to sort of be there without physically being there, and he absolutely did that in spades. I've never once felt, I won't say abandoned, but sort of let down by him being away. He's always made a point to sort of let me know I'm loved, I can do whatever I want. Some people say that it's hard to have an actor as a father. When you're an actor yourself, I would say almost the opposite. He gives me tips. He tells me, everything's going to be okay, despite the mass rejection that some actors may have to go through.
Roberts and Gooding were not the only Scream cast members descended from the famous. Jack Quaid, who played primary antagonist Richie Kirsch, and garnered considerable attention for his role in the hit Amazon show The Boys. Sprung from the loins of acting giants Dennis Quaid of The Day After Tomorrow and Meg Ryan of When Harry Met Sally. Though Jack may have benefited from advice here and there, he actually refused help from his father when it came time to obtain an agent, wanting instead to forge his own way.
Jack was pretty much the same thing, even from just a very, very young kid. He had a video camera in his hand when he was like 4 years old, making his own videos and stuff. And it was just a natural thing that he did. It wasn't anything we pushed him towards. His mom's Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, ever since he was a kid, it was kind of obvious he was going to do that. And we didn't, he went through like high school drama and stuff. He didn't work as an actor. And
did he ask you for advice?
Yeah, he asked his advice, but my agent wanted to represent him, and he said, no, I want to do it on my own. And then, of course, he gets an agent on his own, and then he gets, his first movie is Hunger Games. Yeah. And then he gets in Scorsese's Vinyl on television, which was the hottest show there was. And now he's doing The Boys, which is like the hottest thing on streaming, and it's a great show. And so I'm saying, like, hey, how about a little help over here? I don't care.
Jack Quaid's character Richie not only played a significant part in the murders, but he also unknowingly revealed to audience members the fate of Scream 4's Kirby Reed. Presented in Easter egg fashion, confirmation of Reed's survival showed on Richie's computer screen while he was watching a YouTube video that criticized fictional film Stab 8. As the top story located on the right-hand side, the confirmation came in the form of an interview with the Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed by Bloody Disgusting. Of course, Reed was not the only character brought back from the dead in the 5th installment of the Scream movie franchise. Original Ghostface slicer dicer Billy Loomis also returned. However, He did so in the form of a hallucination in order to offer up some bloody advice to his secret daughter, Sam Carpenter. Or should we say, Sam Loomis? A name horror fanatics will likely recognize as shared by one of the greatest heroes in horror film history, Dr. Samuel Loomis of John Carpenter's Halloween.
How you doing, Sam? Antipsychotics aren't working as well as they used to, are they?
Fuck you.
You can't run from who you are, Sam. I'm just trying to help. Hey, when are you gonna tell her why all this is happening?
Though Scream 5 set the spotlight on the unflattering side of fandom, director Tyler Gillette clarified his appreciation for his fans as well as his tolerance for critics with differing opinions.
And then, of course, you know, outside of the experience of making the movie, the fan culture and our fan family has been just a really amazing thing to like watch grow and develop. And it's been very kind. And of course, there's always a corner of it that is very critical, and that's fine too. You know, I think part of what we hoped the movie is clear in the movie is that we consider ourselves to be a part of fan culture. We love movies. That's all we talk about is movies. And so for as much as we're like taking shots at toxic fandom, we also consider ourselves to be fans, and we are opinionated fans. You know, that's sort of, we're in the business of creating things that people can have opinions about.
With this whodunit horror series brimming with twists and turns, what would Scream 5 have been without the inclusion of some red herrings, which have become a staple of the films? Director Matt Bettinelli-Olpin provided insight into one of the oldest tricks in the book for such tools of the trade.
You've got to think that everybody is guilty at some point, and you got to think that everybody's innocent at some point. And it's creating those kind of, you know, guardrails so that when you're watching the movie, for the first time, because, you know, we've talked about it a lot. A whodunit is a movie you get to watch once one way, and then all the rest of the ways will be different. And it was really fun for us going back and rewatching the original Scream and watching a bunch of whodunits and watching how that's done in all of these great whodunits. And the tricks are often the same. It's like, and a lot of the times it's just tell the audience who the killer is. They won't believe you. And maybe they will for 5 minutes, and then they won't believe you later. And we all do it. And I think in our movie, the red herrings thing was fun because there's little moments that you get to play with where you're like, yeah, let's linger on this character for like a beat too long, because people are smart and they know we're showing you that for a reason. And, you know, anyone who watches movies on a somewhat regular basis understands that and takes it in. We can't do this new Scream justice if all three don't come back.
I read the script. It was quick and sharp and funny and scary. This film feels like the first Scream.
Really excited for Nev to come back where she's like this badass.
I won't sleep until he's in the ground.
We see a lot of Dewey in this film. It's really nice to see his journey.
I'm really excited for audiences to see these characters that they've loved and to see how they've progressed.
When Dewey and Gale intersect, it was perfect, really emotional.
Fans always ask me, you gonna make another one? It's fun to get into it again.
And it's really scary.
Bettinelli-Olpin spoke openly about the need to bring all three of the original surviving cast members back for the making of Scream 5. But that was then, and this is now. And with the fictional character Dwight Dewey Riley, played by David Arquette, permanently out of commission, and according to reports, actress Neve Campbell's refusal to reprise her role as Sidney Prescott once more, the question then became, what would fans expect for the next film in the series?
So the interesting thing is, of course, with the internet and Twitter being what it is, all those theories that are out there for Scream 6 at this point, or Scream the sequel, we're not sure what it will eventually be called. I love, James, that you touched on the fact that you said nobody is safe. Can we count on that motto in the sequel?
I mean, I think if I say that, then people will assume one thing, and if I don't say that, people assume something else. And so I'm not going to say anything. I think what I will say about the sequel is we love this franchise so much, and I hope that comes through in
in the film we've made, and that is carrying through into the film we're about to make. And so, you know, we're looking to try and deliver another great movie in the franchise that we are all enormous fans of.
Much like its predecessors, the writers of the sixth film were extremely tight-lipped as to the surprises that lay ahead. Scream 6 was released to the public in March of 2023, with cast members Courtney Cox, Melissa Barrera, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, and Jenna Ortega returning to the film.
I think that the second one was really interesting because, yeah, she was a bit more of a real person. She is interacting with the other characters more. Like, I never had scenes with Jasmine Savoy Brown or Mason Gooding in the last one, so it was nice to actually work with my castmates, not just Ghostface, but then also it was really wonderful just kind of furthering the relationship between Melissa Barrera's character, Sam Carpenter, and creating the distinction between them. It was nice because I kind of took her performance and pushed the other route in terms of, okay, Tara's going to be super feminine and super sensitive, or a bit more dramatic, or a bit more, you know, embracing her teenage side. And that was really fun for me as well, especially with the Ghostface that's more gruesome than ever. It was nice to kind of play sensitive feminine girl who's still strong. I only want to play strong people, and she's strong.
After having battled alcoholism and depression and overcoming the struggles of what it was like to grow up as a child star, Hayden Panettiere decided to return to the big screen by reprising her role as fan favorite Kirby Reed. In a candid interview, Panettiere opened up about her experiences and how Scream 6 served as a welcomed second chance that fed her soul.
Being a child actor it's horrible. I would never wish it on my worst enemy. It's full of people who want things from you, who need things from you. And I mean, I'll give you an example. I had somebody that I was supposed to work with, I was working with, who represented me. And she introduced me at 15 years old to the happy pill. And I had absolutely no idea at that time what, you know, really drugs were or addiction was. And she would give me this happy pill before I walked down the red carpet so that I would be peppy and into the interviews. And I had no idea what door that would open for me, you know, when it came to addiction.
Hey, before you get in the car, you have to promise not to kill me.
I feel like I'm getting back in business.
I'm sorry, it's just me. Look, I tried to call 911, but the landline's dead and someone smashed the router.
You know, I'm getting back to work, and that is so good for the soul. And I just want to keep that ball rolling. I have a whole new team of people.
Former cast member Matthew Lillard had a few ideas about what he would like to see in this latest installment in the Scream universe.
How would you envision Stu returning to Scream 5?
Scarred. Well, he's not in 5, I'll tell you that. But whenever he comes back somewhere in the future, because that's what happens in horror movies all the time, they bring the killers back. He's scarred, but yet handsome with great abs. So prosthetics, but like he's like shredded.
It's all the time in prison.
All he does is work out. Comes out, oh, that'd be amazing. Just come out ripped.
Shaved head?
Like shaved head, like scarred face,
yeah.
Like ripped. Oh, that's a good pitch. My wife will be super excited.
Will this involve face tats for you or not?
Oh, thank you. Yes. Throat tat, face tat, like that would be badass.
Yes.
I really like that. I actually am really excited about this. Can we get behind this movement?
I can't wait for Scream 6. I think
Can we do like fan art? I need fan art of Stu post jail, scarred up and ripped like a comic book character.
In the almost 2 years since the release of Scream 6, there have been many developments and production snags leading up to the next installment. Perhaps biggest of all being the controversy surrounding lead actress Melissa Barrera, who was fired due to social media posts in support of Palestine. Jenna Ortega left due to scheduling duties, and the script was ultimately reworked for a return of Neve Campbell in the lead role. Original writer of the 1996 film, Kevin Williamson, will step into the director's chair for the first time in the franchise's history. Despite the controversy surrounding the current state of the franchise, Scream 6 was a massive hit, earning $108 million domestically and $169 million internationally. Like many of its predecessors who claim royalty status amongst franchise slashers, Scream only seems to get a more frenzied fan base due to its meta nature, and it seems to never die. Rest assured, many a horror fan will be patiently awaiting what future Woodsboro tales lay ahead. And the final question ultimately remains, do you like scary movies?